Today we've got a story of an entitled man who cut a kid in line at an amusement park. We'll get into that in a bit, but first, today I found out my own mom nuked my credit score, and her excuse was insane. Today, I finally figured out why my credit score has been absolute garbage for the last couple of years. I kept blaming myself. Maybe I forgot an old bill somewhere, maybe something went to collections without me noticing. I've been stressing over it for months. Turns out, the reason was sitting in my own house the whole time. My mom stole my identity almost 3 years ago. Opened accounts, missed payments, racked up balances, the whole disaster package. I only found out because I applied for something super basic and the bank guy casually goes, "You've had these accounts since 2022, correct?" I swear I felt my soul leave my body. When I confronted her, hoping it was some kind of mix-up, she literally shrugged and said, "You didn't need good credit for anything anyway." Like my future doesn't matter. Like rebuilding credit is just a side quest I can do on weekends. Now I'm sitting here with a stack of paperwork, trying to untangle 3 years of financial chaos, and realizing I basically have to rebuild my entire credit profile from scratch. I've literally gone back to the basics. Tiny charges that auto-clear from my checking, zero chance of anyone else touching it, the kind of slow, boring rebuild you do with a card that only spends what's already in your account. It's the first thing in months that feels safe, I guess. Now, forgive me for my ignorance because honestly I just don't know here, but surely there must be something OP can do here to maybe get that wiped? Like once the damage is done, is it just done, or can you get it kind of reset or reconfigured if you have like a legal action go on? To be honest, I don't actually know how credit works in that regard. If anybody has any idea, I'd love to know in the comments. ParityTX commented on the post, "Your only way out is to call the police, possibly FBI, and file a fraud, theft, and identity theft claim against mom. She needs to be formally charged. You need the police report. Take that report to every account on your credit report and demand they rescind the account and remove all bad credit info. It may take a long time, but eventually it should get cleared up. If you see a lawyer about it, they may tell you that you have to sue mom for all of it. Then do it." Also, hi, I'm Steven, and if you guys enjoy crazy stories from entitled parents, why not hit those like and subscribe buttons down below? Our next story is Karma for Entitled Homeowner Who Thinks They Own Lake Access. We have a home in a gated community in Florida with a boat ramp and dock in a lake. The community doesn't own the lake, and the other homes around the lake have their own private access. Our access is for homeowners within our gated community only. A few years back, some homeowner installed a post and a padlocked chain across the boat ramp, preventing anyone from putting in boats. No idea who did it, but the HOA cut the lock and removed the chain. So ridiculous. Last year, a homeowner, no idea if it was the same one, had their boat in at the dock and would drive his truck down and park it on the grass by the dock. Parking on the grass isn't allowed as it kills it. He was told numerous times to stop and to park in the small lot further up from the ramp. Finally, all that worked was for the HOA, via board volunteers, to put up 2 no parking signs on the grass, spaced to block the possibility of parking. From then on, he started parking on the pavement at the bottom of the ramp, blocking anyone else from putting in a boat. Again, he was warned and didn't change his ways until one day when someone was actually blocked and notified a board member to call towing. The tow company came out, and at some point in the process, the truck rolled back into the lake up to the doors. I'm sure insurance covered the damage, but it's still nice that he had to deal with karma for his entitlement. You know, I was gonna go down the rabbit hole of would they still be found liable in some degree here because they weren't supposed to park there? But to be fair, a good towing company, a responsible one, would never allow a truck to roll into a lake like that. So as much as I would love for the guy to be liable here, he probably did dodge a bullet. Sinsmith3 commented, "I worked for a city that bordered a lake. We had no legal jurisdiction over the lake, but we would contribute emergency resources whenever needed. The lake was a reservoir, and in our state, reservoirs are owned by the state. We would get a lot of complaints from our lakefront properties about boaters fishing or idling too close to the property line, or people walking along the shore and trespassing. Sorry, your property ends 10 feet from the high water mark and the lake itself is public. Oh, you want to build a private dock? Nope. No part of a private dock can rest on state property. People are on the shoreline on your property? Nope, that's not your property. State land. You think they're fishing illegally? Okay, here's the number for Fish and Wildlife. Bye. Our next story is, he seriously wasn't hitting on you. My 33-year-old female, former college friend Jen, 31-year-old female, has always had a hard time knowing when someone was hitting on her. It was almost comical because my friends and I could clock her turning to us and saying how the server, bartender, barista, etc. was hitting on her. They were not. We would even tell her sometimes, and she would push back like we didn't witness the whole interaction. It's their job to be nice. They want your money. This story happened maybe a year or two after we graduated from college. This night in particular, I met Jen downtown for a night of drinking. We went to this restaurant that has a nice bar and is steps away from actual bars. While hanging out in the bar area, one of my best friend's boyfriend, 32-year-old male, approaches us. I introduce them and we chat for maybe 2 minutes before he excuses himself and leaves the restaurant in search of his friends. As soon as he's out of earshot, Jen turns to me and starts gushing how he was totally hitting on her. I calmly say, no, he was not. She proceeds to wave me off. Not letting her have this one, I reiterated that he was not hitting on her. She tells me he gave off a vibe, and I wouldn't understand the way he looked at her. I tell her no again. He primarily looked at me since I was the one having the conversation with him, that there were no vibes beside him being nice. She once again dismisses me. I tell Jen he seriously isn't interested. Why and how do I know this? 1, he is taken, and 2, he is gay. The girl had the gall to still try to dismiss me. Like, what the heck? You were so desperate to think someone is hitting on you that gay men in relationships are now falling at your feet? You may question how I would know he was gay. While he's not flamboyant, you can still tell when having a conversation with him. Plus, I literally introduced him as my friend's boyfriend. Months later, I saw the boyfriend out again and told him the story. He said even if he was straight, Jen wouldn't have been his type. I seriously could tell you so many stories of when Jen thought she was being hit on. Like I said, my friends and I could guess when she would insist she was being hit on. I can't fault her for dreaming, but she's doing kind of the opposite of like what most guys jokingly do, where a woman could give every possible signal that she's interested and a guy would go, yeah, you know what, she might just be being friendly right now. Shouldn't press this one too hard, I don't want to mess things up. Opal Rin commented, Jen's the kind of person who thinks the self-checkout machine is flirting because it said, please place your item in the bagging area. OP replied, don't forget the automatic doors, opening just for her. So chivalrous of them. Our next story is basement spot. I live in an apartment in Melbourne and this guy keeps parking in my basement spot. I've told him a few times and every time he just laughs and says, I'll move it quickly. Yeah, right. Melbourne Cup, long weekend. I pull up and he's parked in my spot. I parked in front of his car, blocked off. He knocks on my door and says, you need to move the car. I say, look mate, I'm not able to find my keys on my car. I've been searching everywhere for the past hour. I tried to ring the locksmith and they said it's going to double the charge around $500 or something due to the public holiday. I tell them, look mate, you gotta wait for 2 days. If you're happy to pay, you pay. He says he'll ring the police. I just shrug and tell him, mate, you're stuck in my spot. You can call the police or anyone, I don't give a crap. 2 days later, I magically find the keys. He storms off pale and furious. He hasn't dared park in my spot since, and I still crack up thinking about how angry he got trapped like that. I really thought OP was going to end this story saying that they walked away with a free $500. I mean, the 2-day wait is pretty good, but that $500, if they had gotten that, that would have been sweet. Pixbaby commented, I've done this myself. Good for you. I've also caught people parking in my spot and said, the fee is $20 a minute, first 3 free, plus you'll have to find me as I'll be blocking you in. I sleep soundly and also go for long walks or out with friends, them driving. One thought he'd call my bluff. We settled on $150 after we lost use of his car for 2 days. Our next story is, gentle parenting is sad to watch as a retail worker. Very standard setup. I work in a small clothing retail store in a mall. I'm a supervisor and I was the only one at the till. Lady had some standard returns and purchase, whatever. Her child, I would guess maybe 5 or 6 years old, was playing with a bracelet set while we did our transaction. We finished up. Lady said, Okay, give the bracelet to the lady, let's go. Child actually did give it back. I said thank you. They went to leave. Mom leaves. Child comes running back into my store to look for the bracelet. Mom comes back to look for her. Child ends up crying about how she wants the bracelet. Whatever, I figure. The parent is gonna handle it. None of my business. Until the kid comes running behind me and the tills trying to find the bracelet. Mom is just standing on the other side looking exasperated and saying in that gentle parenting voice, "Come on, we have to go." Kids trying to dig through my stuff, bags, clothes, just whatever's behind the tills. I say to the mom, "Hey, if you want to come back here and grab her, that's fine." She doesn't reply. At that point, I had to step in. There was sharp pins for security tags and stuff, and I had more customers to help. So as the kid was running to hide from mom, I stuck out my arm to block her. Holy crap, you would think I'd broken her arm, she screamed so loud. Like that toddler ear-piercing wail. Where is her mom? Just standing there, now looking mad at me and said, "Well, that was embarrassing," and just glared at me. Kid then bolted around my store again and had another screaming and crying fit on the floor. Again, mom just stood there. I'm not a parent, and I do understand the whole let kids have the tantrum idea, but I was under the impression that you remove them from the upsetting situation. The joy of retail is, though, that I had to email my district manager the whole story just in case the lady tries to say I hurt her child. Edit, apologies for calling it gentle parenting. I'm not a parent, so I don't know the terms other than what friends have told me. Third edit and update, I got a slap on the wrist from my district manager because I shouldn't ever touch a customer's child. Next time, I'll let them play in the bin of sharp pins. Fourth edit and update, hopefully last update. Turns out my district manager more meant that she doesn't want me or the other employees to intervene with children because she would rather the company get sued rather than us personally, if that makes sense. In the much more interesting update, when I went to work a different day, the same mom and child were in the store. And yet again, mom is on the other end of the store while this kid is trying to pull on our mannequins. I just looked at my manager and said, "Dibs out." She went over and told this kid to please not touch our mannequins. The mom then threw a shirt on the till and said, "Well, I didn't see anything today anyways." My manager was actually concerned this lady is trying to find a lawsuit, so she might get banned if she returns. Definitely my first viral Reddit post. Some of the comments made me lose faith in people, but that's how it goes. Thank you to people sympathizing with my suffering of working with the public. I feel like that last theory is kind of wild to me. Would people really be going to these stores with their kid and intentionally not watching them and letting them run around and do whatever solely for the hopes that they could get a lawsuit? I mean, I know some people are dumb and they come up with some pretty dumb ideas like that, but I guess just consider me a skeptic on that one. /86 commented, "That's not gentle parenting, that's no parenting." Our next story is wedding cake cut by guest refused to stop. This is my first ever Reddit post. I came strictly to tell my story of how my stepdaughter and son-in-law cut my wedding cake while ignoring my pleas to stop. A couple of hours into my reception, I'd seen my wife's 24-year-old daughter with her fiance holding a large serrated knife over my wedding cake. Acknowledging what was about to happen, I yelled out, "Stop, wait, the cake had not yet been cut." Her daughter replied, "The bride said she could," while her fiancé, who began cutting the cake at her request, completely ignored me. I approached the bride, my wife, and asked why her daughter was cutting our cake. Then her daughter shouted, "She said I could," and my bride did confirm she gave her permission. I never received a real apology. Although at their wedding, they let me cut their cake after them as some form of apology in their perspective. But to me, it signified they wouldn't want someone to make the first cut of their cake either. My wife thinks that I'm wrong to still hold resentment. Even my best man privately apologized for me to my stepdaughter. All I can do is focus on that I told them to stop before they ever started, and I wasn't just ignored, she actually argued with me, as if she was entitled to permission because her mother said so, regardless of what I said. We just celebrated our 1-year anniversary and revisited our wedding venue. I suppose it brought it back to light. I was reflecting on how someone could actually argue with someone over being justified in cutting their wedding cake. I created a meme to depict my perspective of it because I can't understand why so many people view me as the bad guy in the situation. So, of course, I shared the meme and all heck broke loose. It's not like me to put myself out there like this. I'm a total introvert. I literally have no one in my corner, so I was just hoping someone can confirm there's no valid excuse for ignoring someone's request that you stop cutting their wedding cake. Yeah, I would say when it comes to cutting somebody else's wedding cake, it's definitely a two-person approval kind of thing. Now, it's no nuclear football or anything, but you should get both people's approval. You say what now? Commented, why aren't you blaming your wife? Why the freak would she give her daughter permission when you haven't done the official cake cutting yet? If your now wife has coddled her daughter this badly all of her life, this isn't on the daughter, it's on your wife. What a crappy and dysfunctional parent you married. Our next story is, entitled Coworker said I do not deserve my promotion because we were employed at the same time. Recently, I was promoted from customer service representative to team lead. My boss said it was because of my consistency and reliability. I always met deadlines, handle extra work when things get busy, and hardly ever take time off. Flora and I were employed at the same time, but from the start, she has rarely been dependable. She comes late almost every day, constantly makes excuses to miss work, and delays her tasks so much almost all the time the boss often has to shift her unfinished work to me just to keep projects on track. When she heard about my promotion, she met me the next day at work, no greeting, and said, I don't understand why you got promoted. We were employed at the same time, and we do the same job. I told her, we may have started at the same time, but we clearly have not been doing the same job. If you have a problem with the promotion, go and meet the boss and sort it out with him. Since then, Flora has been telling other coworkers that I lured the boss into promoting me because I'm acting like I know it all. Shouldn't OP take this to the boss themselves also? I mean, if Flora is now spreading all these rumors around and trying to smear OP with every coworker there, should that not be the final nail in the coffin for already a pretty bad employee? I mean, what's next? Finding out that Flora is the daughter-in-law of the big boss? Red Mud Girl commented, she's jealous plain and simple. Who cares what she tells other coworkers? They should be able to see the truth for themselves. Your boss saw your dedication and energy output, and you were rightfully rewarded for it. Keep up being true to you. Our next story is dealing with entitled neighbors after parents' death. My parents died last year, and I was left as the administrator of their estate, which required me to handle the liquidation of their assets, including the house my siblings and I grew up in. We had next-door neighbors on one side who had a number of run-ins with my parents over the years, including a row over where on my parents' property bags of fallen leaves could be kept while waiting for city pickup. Apparently, if bags were visible from the neighbor's house, they had to be moved. After my parents' death, it was decided by the family that we would sell their house. I lived in another state and would head over on the weekends to pick up mail and do some cleaning and stuff around the house to get it ready for sale. One weekend, I headed over there to meet with a realtor, and in the middle of our meeting, the doorbell rang. At the door were both husband and wife who mentioned the for sale sign in the front yard and who, despite knowing mom and dad has passed, decided to start off the conversation with, I noticed the for sale sign. I noticed the for sale sign up and was wondering if you could have the oak tree in the backyard trimmed or removed before it's sold. What the heck? Not even a sorry your parents passed away. Whatever. I politely said we'll see and sold their house a month later. I feel sorry though for the buyers of the home to end up with such narcissistic neighbors. At least they got a beautiful home at a good price out of it. So essentially what OP's kind of saying is, as idyllic and perfect as that childhood home is, it isn't all sunshine and rainbows. Unfortunately, neighbors can be a big part of what makes a home, or more of an annoyance really. At least OP never has to hear from those people ever again. Cindy B0202 commented, I hope you slam the door in their faces. They're poor excuses for human beings. My sympathies on the passing of your parents. Our next story is, entitled guest tries to get a refund for hotel stay. I work as a guest service agent at a hotel handling check-ins and check-outs. This lady came downstairs at around 10 a.m. and asked me what time checkout was. I told her 11 a.m. She went back upstairs. At around 10:30-ish, the fire alarm got triggered by dust from construction outside. Our maintenance was able to quickly turn off the alarm, and I sent out a message to our guests letting them know of the false alarm. Moments later, the lady who I spoke to earlier about her checkout time came storming down with her bags and told me the alarm had disturbed her sleep and it was unacceptable to have alarms going off. She then proceeded to go off about everything else she hated about the place and wanted a refund for her stay. Mind you, she hadn't mentioned a single complaint when I spoke to her earlier. I told her that I wasn't authorized to process refunds, my favorite line, and she had also happened to book through a third party, so she would have to reach out to them to inquire about a refund. She called me a jerk. I told her to have a nice day. I'm sure anyone who works at a hotel knows you meet the most entitled people, but you also get to meet amazing people from around the world, which I love. Oh, the good old classic, you booked through a third party, so you're gonna have to bring it up with them. I feel like I've heard so many horror stories of entitled people who are acting so out of line, and the common denominator over and over is, you need to give me a refund or rebook my stay or whatever, but the person at the counter can't because you booked it through Expedia, Karen. Kiwi Muzz commented, you missed a great opportunity to advise her that due to her behavior, she had qualified for a special prize of a lifetime ban. Our next story is, my boyfriend thinks I owe him money while he's unemployed. My boyfriend lost his job a while ago and hasn't been actively looking for a new one. I've helped him financially in the past, and I've even helped him cover bills and his rent at times. I don't like to count favors, but recently he asked me for money for a haircut. I told him I didn't have any, and he immediately got an attitude. Since then, he barely calls, and when I do, his energy is off. When I asked him what was going on, he said he expected me to support him now that he's broke, just because he supported me when he had a job. I reminded him that I have a family that I solely take care of and very little spare money, but he ignored that and acted like I'm being unfair. It's been almost a week since we've really spoken. I feel like he's acting entitled, but I want to make sure I'm not overreacting. Am I wrong for refusing to give him money for a haircut? Honestly, I don't know if anyone hearing this story is really going to have enough true information to really definitively say one way or another. I mean, ultimately, if OP can't afford it, they can't afford it. I think another good point of contention is, did he choose to support you? Or did OP go out of their way to advocate and specifically lean on him? Because the two are different, and it would be a little bit more unfair if OP did ask for financial support and help from the boyfriend in the past, and then turned around and didn't want to try to at least provide some kind of support when the roles are flipped. Sailor Spyro commented, it would be one thing if he were actively looking for a job and unable to get one and asked for some help, but if he's not even trying, that's a red flag. And him getting mad at you for not being able to support him is an even bigger red flag. He's a bum. Our next story is, entitled woman thought I was hitting on her. The story I'm about to tell happened many years ago. I was in the subway minding my business, tired after a long workday, and kinda ticked because the train was late again. As I walk on the side, I saw a woman dropping her monthly pass not that far ahead of me. Knowing these passes cost an arm, I pick it up and reach her. I didn't want to touch her shoulder in case I startle her. I went beside her and just waved at her saying, "Excuse me, you drop..." She cut me up with a rude and snippy tone. "Go freak yourself, I have a boyfriend." I don't know if it was the tiredness or she got me more ticked than I already was, but I just snapped. I show her her card with her picture and said, "Then ask him for a replacement." And I just toss the card on the railroad, turn around, and walk away. I don't know if it counts as an entitled one or maybe I was the entitled one, but whatever. I guess I don't know if it truly qualifies as entitled. It's definitely presumptive, it's definitely rash, and it's definitely rude. My only hang-up is, what would she be necessarily feeling entitled to in the situation? For you to not bother her? Stumbling in the Future commented, reminds me of freshman year in college. Was at a restaurant. This girl comes in crying asking to use the restroom, but it was one of those crappy Chinese takeout places with only like 2 tables and clearly no restroom for guests. She took off to the left side of the door. 2 more girls came in asking the cashier if she's seen a girl here just now and which way did she go. Cashier said she didn't know. As they were exiting, my friend and I were about to tell her which way her friend went, like, "Oh, hey, They replied, "Don't even think about talking to me." I was gonna tell you which way your friend went, but I guess you don't need to know. Went back to my chow mein. The girl stuttered a bit and said some stuff. She was super drunk. She exited and went to the right side. Our next story is, "That's my water bottle." Not even sure what happened really. It all went down in a matter of seconds. Leaving kids' volleyball game out the gym doors, when it comes to my attention, the loud person making a scene is actually talking at me. She was simultaneously yelling at me and her kid, who was maybe 15 feet behind her, so it was chaotic. She kept asking if my water bottle was mine. Could she look at it? It's just like hers and I must have grabbed it. Then she repeats something similar to her kid, who is just as confused as me, and I'm guessing a whole lot of embarrassed. This lady had stopped half the team and their parents about my dang water bottle, many looking at me to respond about why I apparently took hers, but all I could say with true confusion was, "You mean the bottle you're holding in your left hand?" She had the exact one in her hand, as her kid was trying to point out. Upon realizing her mistake, there was no apology. She only loudly exclaimed, "Oh Jesus Christ," and turned around to walk back in. To be fair, does anybody else find that "Oh Jesus Christ" outward exclamation and immediately turning around and walking back in almost as satisfying as an apology would have been? I mean, you could tell it really hit her deep on that one. Beginning Method 442 commented, "Long time ago, I had a similar. I was at some high school event with a package in hand. An older lady came in demanding it was hers, tried to grab it from me. I was 13, shy, totally confused, but I knew it was mine. As she was pulling it, I tilted it up, and there was my name. She dropped it and literally slunk away. 45 years later, it still sits in my brain. Why would an adult act that way?" Our next story is, "It's just a kid." Hi y'all, I'm back with another story from my time working at a very popular theme park in Florida, a magical rat planet of sorts. This situation happened when I worked in attractions. I want to preface this by saying that Magical Rat Planet has a lot of borderline unrealistic expectations and rules for its workers that lead to eventual burnout or blood pressure issues. However, some of their teachings are lovely. One such being, "I respect all guests including children," or "I will be courteous to all guests of any age." Something like that. I was single rider greeter one afternoon during a calm period. The park was busy but not crazy, and my particular attraction actually had decent wait times, which meant I could socialize with guests more. A little boy around 5 walked up with his family. They were resting a bit until their fast pass time arrived. Their little boy was just awkwardly staring up at me, even when his family walked some feet away, so I engaged him in conversation. I asked about his day, what he had done, and answered any questions he had. He was delighted to have someone listen to him. He had a lot to say. Cute, bubbly, talkative baby. This little boy started asking me about my particular attraction. He wanted to know, was it scary? I started explaining it to him when a man walked up and interrupted, asking about something else. He literally just cut in, didn't say, "Excuse me." Bear in mind, I was one of 3 greeters. The other 2 greeters were just standing there smiling, but the man came straight to me. I politely told him to hold on a minute, as I was with a guest at the moment. The little boy literally stood with his little chest out. The man looked around before looking down. The man smirking said, "It's just a kid." The kid put on a pouty face, and I said, "He's a guest. One of the other cast members can assist you." The man huffed and walked to one of my free coworkers. The little boy smiled, and I could tell he felt seen and important. He was adorable, though yes, his parents totally slick left him there for me to watch while they rested a few feet away. That happened often, and we would have to gently remind parents, we're not babysitters. I mean, this is kind of an adorable story. I mean, OP really made that kid feel seen and heard, and probably made their entire day at Magical Rat Planet. I appreciate too that the words OP chose to reply to this guy with are like the closest you could possibly get to saying like freak off to somebody, but still fall within Magical Rat Planet guidelines. Tinfoil Deer commented, "I'm guessing he's the type to use the adage, children should be seen and not heard. I grew up with the same, but rather than adopting that attitude, I've gone the other way. Everyone should have a chance to be seen and heard. Plus, how do kids learn if we act like they're background props and don't teach them what respect really is? You showed the boy respect that day, OP, and I'm betting he'll always remember it." Our next story is, potential buyer wants me to deliver furniture over 400 miles away. I have an older dining room set listed up on Facebook Marketplace and Nextdoor. It's an older set, nothing special or antique. In the ad, I specify pickup only. Oh, and cash only, no online payments. This one person messages me and asks if I'll deliver to a town over 400 miles away. Not just no, but heck no. I'm not going to load up my truck and drive over 800 miles round trip on the promise that you'll pay me when I get there. It would cost me more in diesel than I'm asking for the set. That's when it turned from entitled twit to probable scam in the making. This person claimed she had some movers picking up her furniture from my city. How convenient. And she would have them pick it up because she was sick and couldn't drive that far. Alarm bells went off in my head then. I was pretty sure the next message was going to be that she would send me a check for more than I was asking and have me pay her movers. Not stupid, not playing, instantly blocked. I mean, kudos to OP for making sure that they're not going to get scammed. It's always nice to see somebody being responsible in that way. I just have to ask though, in 2025, can you reliably list something online for sale and say cash only? I mean, I guess to be fair, if you really did want this dining room set, you can go to the bank and withdraw $400 or an ATM, but it kind of feels like the easiest thing to do is like Zelle or something if you can. Jade Monkey 42 commented, "Banker here. I've actually had clients who fell for this exact scam. Kinda shocking how many people don't understand checks are not the same as cash, and it takes time to clear." But with that being said, that's all the time we have for today. Now, if you want to hear another absolutely crazy entitled people story, check out that video on the left. Or if you missed my latest video, check out that video on the right. That said, I'll see you all next time with some more stories.